Here we are. We're live.
Hello.
I always love that. It's like it pops up. It's like we're live. This is Christine Caston.
And this is Sharon Rudolph.
And we're here with Warrior Commission Now. This is a series of conversations where we're just talking about how you live out the commission that God has given us in this world to live out. And it is the Great Commission, but it's also just what it is to live life. Jesus said, I have all of these things I have and more I give you. And so we're exploring what it is to actually live in what those things are. And today we're going to explore a question that is, how do you have joy? And I think in this time and season, with all of the fear and all of the, and rightfully so. I mean, there's a lot of scary things out there right now. So we're not making light of that. But how do you have joy in the midst of crisis? You know, how do you find that? And so, so Sharon, I think you're going to start us off with just some of your thoughts on this, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Yes. I love always going back to the instruction manual, which is the Bible, how to do life, how to make it work. It works well when you live life with your creator. He's the guy that made us.
It makes a big difference.
makes a big difference. Jesus came and walked and gave us an example of what it meant to be human and have a connection with God. So in John 15 and verse 11, it says, I've told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. And I just think it's very helpful. He's very direct. You want to have joy. This is how you have joy. And then in the next verse, it says, my command is this, love each other as I have loved you. And he's very much tying joy in with love. And there's all this other stuff that we are concerned about, especially how things look.
Yeah.
Or even our behavior. But the question is, how do we love? What does that look like? How do we walk in this Jesus love peace? And I think that's a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong journey, and it's a trial and error thing. And so what are your thoughts on this joy piece, and how do you have joy?
Well, I think, one of the things when I was exploring this a while back, and I think it's something you always revisit, right? Because at different times in life, different things happen, and how you tap into that joy and what that looks like, it's really important. I went through a really hard season one time, and before I went through it, a man was praying for me, and he said, you need to hold on to joy. And I can say that in that season, that was really hard to hold on to joy, but joy was the hope of, what was to come, and the promises that God was continuing to fulfill through that process gave me the joy and the faith of knowing that, that whatever this would ultimately be for God's glory. But also God would move in it to help me step into more, to mature me, to grow me, to draw me into deeper relationship with him. And so when you talk about the idea of joy being matched with love, I do feel that that's a really key component, because we're created to be relational. And part of the relationship that we have with the Lord or with others is something that can be a place of joy. And I think that's a really key component. I know that if I'm struggling with something, in life, I have people that I want to talk to, like you. And I'm like, hey, guess what? I would love your perspective on this, because I know that by talking to you in that situation, that you're going to help reframe the way I think about it. You're going to help me see it from a different perspective. And that brings me into a place of joy if I'm having trouble finding it or seeing it. And it's the love we have for each other and the love that we have with others around us that really allows us to step into those places of deeper joy.
Yes. And stepping into, I love those words. It's a stepping into. There's an intentionality required. God didn't create us to live passive lives where we're just reacting to everything around us. He created us to be present, and even to explore this word love in relationship, and just the concept that people all the brain science that's coming out now, how much people are wired to be in relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, depending on history or how you were brought up or the culture, sometimes we don't always understand what does love look like? How do I love this person?
It hasn't been modeled very well in all of the people that in some of the people it has been, that have been around us, but it hasn't been modeled in everyone that we've ever met. And so I think that's part of what we don't throw out the bathwater with the baby, or the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah.
We keep the baby, and so it's the idea of what of that person's life showed you love, what is it that was in the way they could love. What did that look like?
Right.
And I think that's part of the grace and the it opens up a whole new realm of joyful living with that.
Oh, and you pulled out another great word, and it's the grace.
Yeah.
And it's learning to receive grace when we don't love well. It's learning to give grace if someone else doesn't love well. And it's persevering through, because the relationship is more important than the perfection of the moment.
Yes.
Or the words spoken. And it's where we choose that the relationship is more important, which is pretty much what Jesus decided. He decided relationship with us was more important than even his own life. Now, that's never, in a sense, Jesus' circumstance was a little bit unique, because he had a commission from God to accomplish something. Yes. And there are those of us who are in relationships that aren't healthy. And that's where it's really important to find people that you can trust to help you learn how to have a healthy relationship, because there's no need to stay in a relationship that someone calls love, but it isn't, it's abusive.
Right.
And it's okay to find a different group of safe people to learn how to love safely. Absolutely. And it is a beautiful thing when we find that. Yes. And we can put into practice, because sometimes the thing that is most loving we can do is to say, this isn't your best self. This isn't who you can be. And I want to help you be that. But that takes community. That takes other people, the whole.
And it takes choice too, because each person has to choose to step into that, and you have to choose to put relationship as a priority over the situation. And that's I think that's where things happen that can take us out of joy. Because we end up wrestling with the challenges that are involved in that relationship, and relationships are not always easy. Again, that's why we talked about in the first episode that, it takes a warrior mindset to love. Yes. And it takes a warrior mindset to have the fortitude and the tenacity to say, I choose love, whether that person is in my life or not. I choose to love them. It's a choice. And unconditional love is about a choice, and Jesus, like you said, Jesus modeled that so well.
Yeah.
When I think about joy, one of the things as I was wrestling with what is the difference between a surface happiness and a deep abiding joy, the Lord kind of gave me a picture, and the picture was of, he showed me a stream, that was like just this little, happy little stream going down, down on its way. And then he showed me an aquifer. And he said the stream is subject to the outside elements. So if there's drought, if there's rain, wind, ice, snow, whatever, it's subject to what's happening around it, and it will be responsive to that thing. But the aquifer is deep, and it's a constant temperature, and it's a huge amount of water, and it stretches all under the land masses. It's usually aquifers are huge areas of landmass that have collected this deep well of water, and that is what he described his joy is like, and living in that abiding joy.
And I love that. So he's given us the aquifer. We've got that. That's part of his deposit in us. Yes. Then he sent Holy Spirit So that if we have trouble connecting with our aquifer, Holy Spirit is that present with us 24/7 connection to God.
Mhm.
And all we have to do is ask. He's our helper.
Yes. Yes.
I love that Jesus sent us a helper. He knew we would need something to navigate here. And
Yes.
and we just get to ask, okay, how do I connect with this aquifer of joy that you have for me? How do I see the things differently? How even do I find the people to partner with to practice joy safely?
Yes.
And I think, yeah, I just want to let anybody listening that Holy Spirit's listening to you. And it's okay to ask and then just wait and see. Mm-hmm. And he may bring something to you in a song on the radio. He may bring something to you in a situation at work. He'll bring you the answer. And our joy, part of our joy, especially as warriors, is to find the hidden treasures that God has for us. And it's fun to do that in conversation. Yes. So Christine, do you have any treasures like your aquifer? Your aquifer was a treasure moment.
It was a treasure. Yeah. And you know, and I think there's obviously a lot of treasure that we can pull out, and will, you know, in our future conversations, you know, in the Warrior Commission now, one of the things that I think has been a joy for me has been the community that we are connected to, called the Warrior Commission, and the conversations that we have there are, for me, those are my treasures, because the conversations and the way people choose to stand through different situations that are life situations are typically very encouraging to me, and just allow me to step into that place of joy. So when we talk about how do you have joy, you know, I think we've talked about the deep abiding of the aquifer. We've talked about connecting to Holy Spirit. We've talked about relationships, and we've talked about ultimately loving well and loving others in that. Do you have anything to add, Sharon, as we bring this to a close?
I want to explore more this concept of loving well, because that's the thing Jesus asked us to do. And we all have our own, love is love, but we have the freedom to express that the way God created us to express that. Yeah. So I think we're going to have fun exploring this love piece as we move forward.
I agree. I totally agree. So thank you guys for joining us on this this edition, I guess, of the Warrior Commission Now channel, and we look forward to seeing you in future conversations. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.